Before we start this question, let's remind ourselves that if we had the square root of x times the square root of y, that would be the square root of xy. But by the way, if we had the square root of x times the square root of x, that would just be x. And the reason is because that would be the square root of x squared, and the square root of x squared cancel each other. So you just end up with the x that's underneath. So depending on whether you have different things under the radical versus the same thing under the radical, you get slightly different dynamics. But the point is they have to be the same radical. If you had a square root and a cube root, if there were 3 right here, we wouldn't really be able to combine these as easily. But in our situation, we have 2 square roots. And so according to this rule right here, we're just going to multiply what's underneath. So what's underneath? A plus c to the third times a plus c times another one. So if I'm multiplying these, now I'd have a plus c to the fourth, because I've got 3 of them here and 1 of them here, and now I have 4 of them. And so now we're taking the square root of this. And so there are 2 ways I want you to think of that. One way is to say, well, what is a square root? If I have the square root of 25, that means I'm asking myself, what number multiplied by itself twice gives you 25? And the answer to that is 5. If I have the square root of 100, what number multiplied by itself twice gives me 100? 10. So what number multiplied by itself twice gives you a plus c to the fourth? And the answer to that is a plus c squared. So that's one way of looking at that. Another way of looking at it is to say, well, there's an invisible number 2, because when you have a square root, there is a 2 there. But if it were a cube root, there would actually be the 3, or a 4th root, you'd see the 4. So for square roots, there's an invisible number right in this spot, and that number is the number 2. So, by the way, if you have x to the y and you have the z root of that, then a rule that you need to know is that that's the same as x to the y over z. So then in our situation, if we really have an invisible 2 that we're going to go ahead and make visible now, this would simplify to a plus c to the 4 over 2, which is the same as a plus c to the 2. So either way, we're ending up with a plus c squared. Now, what does it mean to square it? It means we're writing it twice, a plus c times a plus c, and then we're going to go ahead and FOIL it out. First times first, a times a, outer times outer, a times c, inner times inner, a times c again, and we're purposely using it in alphabetical order. And last times last, c times c is c squared. So you have a squared plus 2ac plus c squared, which is answer choice C for this question.